All right, let's talk about the 2026 sci-fi thriller, Mercy. This movie came out of the gate with such a cool, high-tech premise. But man, it almost immediately became this case study in what happens when a great idea doesn't quite stick the landing. It sparked a ton of debate and a whole lot of bad reviews. So what exactly went wrong here?
Here's the breakdown. First, we'll get into that really provocative concept. Then, we'll look at the race against the clock plot at its center. After that, we'll unpack the big human twist of the story, look at the brutal, real-world verdict from critics, and finish with the big question that the movie kind of leaves you chewing on.
Okay, so let's get right into it because the movie opens with this incredibly powerful and, honestly, pretty chilling idea.
And that's the big question Mercy just throws right at you. It drops us into this near-future Los Angeles, where, for violent crimes, the entire justice system has been handed over to an algorithm. They call it the Mercy Court. You've got this holographic AI, Judge Maddox, running the show. The whole idea is to create a system that is totally impartial. No human error, no emotion, no bias. Just cold, hard data. It's a fascinating concept, if, a little terrifying.
This slide really shows you just how massive the shift is. That legal bedrock that we all know, innocent until proven guilty, is just gone. Instead, you walk in with a statistical probability of your guilt already calculated, your fate is decided by an algorithm, and you've got a literal 90-minute timer counting down your life. So, what does the film do? Well, it cleverly puts its own concept to the test by taking one of the system's biggest cheerleaders, an LAPD detective named Chris Raven, played by Chris Pratt, and putting him right in the defendant's chair. He wakes up from this drunken blackout, and bam, he's on trial for killing his wife. The system's already crunched the numbers and says there's a 97% chance he did it, and that lethal 90-minute timer, it's ticking. So he's forced to become this frantic digital detective, trying to solve a murder that he's being accused of committing. Now, the way they shot this is really interesting. It's all in a screen life style, so we're seeing everything he sees on his screens. We're watching him frantically jumping between police body cams and Ring doorbell footage, then digging through private texts and social media, all while making these desperate phone calls. We're right there inside this chaotic digital mess with him, trying to put the puzzle together. Okay, so this brings us to the movie's big reveal, and it's a good one. Because the central mystery here isn't some bug in the code. No, it's something way more analog, way more human. And this timeline just lays it all out. The AI didn't actually fail. The whole problem, the system's original sin, was human. See, years earlier, during the very first Mercy trial, Raven's own partner deleted key evidence just to make sure they got a conviction and that the program looked like a success. Well, that single act of corruption kicked off a revenge plot that led directly to the murder of Raven's wife. And that's the real gut punch here, right? The movie's basically saying you can build the most perfect, data-driven system in the world, but at the end of the day, it's only as good as the people feeding it information. So, the fictional system in the movie gets exposed. But what about the verdict on the movie itself from the real world? Well, critics and audiences delivered their judgment, and let's just say it wasn't pretty. First, let's talk money. The film scraped together just over $53 million at the worldwide box office. But here's the kicker. The budget was reportedly $60 million. So right out of the gate, it was a financial disappointment. And the critics? Oof, they were even tougher. A 24% on Rotten Tomatoes, a 34 out of 100 on Metacritic. That basically translates to a big thumbs down across the board. And when you dig into the reviews, everyone was kind of saying the same things. A brilliant idea, totally wasted. They pointed to huge plot holes, visuals that were so jarring some called them migraine-inducing, and this feeling that the film just gave up on all its interesting ideas at the end and became a generic action movie. Yeah, the reviews were not holding back. Words like schlocky, tedious, cinematic junk food were thrown around. Peter Travers just came right out and called it a miss on every level. Ouch. So after all that, what are we supposed to take away from the whole story of Mercy? Both the story in the movie and the story of the movie itself. Well, this is maybe the biggest, most painful irony of the whole thing. A movie that was trying to warn us about cold, lifeless, automated systems was criticized for feeling like a cold, lifeless, generic product itself. Like it was made by an algorithm. A great idea, sure, but with no soul.
One critic, Manuel Salbento, really hit the nail on the head. He wrote that justice without the context of human fragility is just a line of code devoid of a soul. And that perfectly captures what the movie was trying to say, even if it didn't quite get there. True justice needs empathy. It needs to understand our messy human context.
And in the end, Mercy might have been a failed experiment as a movie, but it does leave us with a really important question for our own future. As we race to put AI into everything, how do we make sure our systems account for the messy, unpredictable, and deeply human parts of our world? How do you program for mercy?